How narcissists quietly destroy your self-confidence. Have you ever felt like you slowly stopped recognizing yourself after meeting someone? Maybe you used to trust your instincts, speak your mind without hesitation, and feel confident making your own decisions. But somewhere along the way, that certainty began to disappear. You started questioning your memory, apologizing for things you weren't even sure were your fault, and wondering why you suddenly felt like you could never do anything right. If you've experienced something like this, you're not imagining it. And perhaps most importantly, you're not alone. Psychologists who study emotionally manipulative relationships explain that the erosion of self-confidence rarely happens all at once. Instead, it unfolds gradually, almost invisibly, until one day you realize you've been viewing yourself through someone else's distorted lens. Today, we're going to explore why this happens, how it affects both people involved, and most importantly, how you can begin rebuilding the confidence that was never truly lost. It was simply buried beneath emotional confusion. One of the most misunderstood aspects of relationships involving strong narcissistic patterns is that the damage often occurs quietly. There may not always be shouting, dramatic arguments, or obvious cruelty. Instead, the relationship can begin with extraordinary warmth and admiration. According to Dr. Ramani Durvasula, many individuals with pronounced narcissistic traits initially create an intense emotional connection that makes the other person feel uniquely valued and deeply understood. This early stage often feels exciting because it satisfies fundamental human needs for belonging, affection, and acceptance. The emotional closeness can feel so genuine that the relationship quickly becomes one of the most important parts of your life. But over time, subtle changes begin appearing. Small criticisms replace compliments. Your opinions are questioned more frequently. Your feelings become dismissed as exaggerations. Conversations somehow end with you apologizing, even when you entered them simply trying to express your emotions. None of these moments seem catastrophic by themselves. In fact, many survivors later admit that if each incident had happened only once, they probably wouldn't have thought much about it. The real damage comes from repetition. Psychologists explain that repeated exposure to subtle invalidation gradually reshapes the way people evaluate themselves. Instead of trusting their own experiences, they begin relying on the approval of the other person to determine whether their emotions are reasonable. This psychological shift doesn't happen because someone is weak or overly sensitive. It happens because the human brain naturally adapts to its environment. When your thoughts are repeatedly questioned, your memories repeatedly challenged, and your emotional reactions repeatedly criticized, your brain begins searching for ways to reduce conflict. Over time, doubting yourself starts to feel safer than disagreeing with the person creating the confusion. Dr. David Hawkins often emphasized that emotional healing begins with recognizing how fear gradually replaces authenticity. Instead of asking yourself, "What do I truly think?" you begin asking, "What response will avoid another argument?" Without realizing it, your identity slowly becomes organized around avoiding someone else's disapproval. This is one reason why so many survivors later describe feeling emotionally exhausted without understanding why. They aren't simply managing the relationship, they're constantly managing themselves. Every conversation requires careful analysis. Every decision feels risky. Every emotional reaction gets filtered through the question, "Am I overreacting?" Eventually, this constant self-monitoring becomes mentally draining. The nervous system remains in a state of hypervigilance, always anticipating criticism or emotional withdrawal. Trauma specialists explain that living in this heightened state for extended periods can significantly affect confidence, concentration, and emotional stability. As this pattern continues, another psychological mechanism often begins taking hold: intermittent reinforcement. Sometimes the other person is affectionate, supportive, and loving. Other times they are distant, critical, or emotionally unavailable. According to relationship psychologists, this unpredictability strengthens emotional attachment because the brain becomes focused on recovering the positive moments that once existed. Instead of recognizing the inconsistency as unhealthy, many people interpret it as something they simply need to work harder to fix. They begin believing that if they become more patient, more understanding, or less emotional, the loving version of the relationship will return permanently. Unfortunately, this belief often leads to one of the most painful consequences: self-blame. Rather than recognizing the unhealthy relational pattern, survivors start assuming they are the problem. They become convinced they are too emotional, too demanding, too forgetful, or too difficult to love. This internalized criticism becomes one of the deepest wounds left behind by emotionally manipulative relationships. Dr. Ramani frequently explains that gaslighting and chronic invalidation gradually disconnect people from their own internal reality. Instead of trusting their instincts, they become dependent on someone else's interpretation of events. In many situations involving narcissistic traits, this pattern develops because external validation plays an unusually important role in emotional regulation. Individuals with strong narcissistic tendencies may rely heavily on admiration, control, or maintaining a particular self-image in order to preserve emotional stability. This does not mean every person displaying narcissistic traits behaves identically, nor does it mean change is impossible. Human personalities are complex. However, psychologists consistently observe that when someone repeatedly prioritizes protecting their own self-image over genuine mutual understanding, healthy communication becomes increasingly difficult. The relationship gradually shifts away from collaboration and toward emotional imbalance, where one person's needs consistently overshadow the other's. One of the most heartbreaking aspects of this experience is how invisible it often appears to outsiders. Friends and family may wonder why you don't simply leave, or why your confidence changed so dramatically. What they cannot always see is the thousands of subtle moments that gradually reshaped your self-perception. Confidence is rarely destroyed through one devastating event. More often, it fades through countless small interactions that quietly teach you not to trust yourself anymore. This is why survivors frequently describe the recovery process as rediscovering a person they thought they had lost. So, how do you begin rebuilding that confidence? The first step is learning to separate your identity from someone else's opinions. This may sound simple, but psychologically, it is one of the most important stages of recovery. Your confidence cannot fully return while your self-worth remains dependent on external approval. Start paying attention to observable facts rather than emotionally charged accusations. Keep a journal of situations that leave you confused. Write down what happened, how you felt, and why your reaction made sense. This practice helps rebuild trust in your own perceptions by creating a clear record of your experiences rather than relying solely on memory, which emotional manipulation often distorts. The second step involves reconnecting with your own voice. During emotionally controlling relationships, many people stop expressing opinions because disagreement feels unsafe. Recovery means intentionally practicing small acts of authenticity again. Share your thoughts. Make decisions without seeking unnecessary reassurance. Allow yourself to have preferences without immediately questioning whether they are acceptable. At first, these actions may feel surprisingly uncomfortable. Trauma psychologists explain that this discomfort is normal because your nervous system is adapting to healthier emotional patterns. Confidence grows not by eliminating fear altogether, but by acting consistently despite it. Another powerful strategy is rebuilding supportive relationships outside the unhealthy dynamic. Human beings develop confidence through connection. Spending time with emotionally healthy friends, trusted family members, therapists, mentors, or support groups provides experiences that challenge the distorted beliefs formed during manipulation. When people consistently respond with empathy, respect, and emotional stability, your brain slowly learns that healthy relationships do exist. Over time, these positive experiences become stronger than the old emotional conditioning. Mindfulness also plays a significant role in recovery. Darren McGee often emphasizes that healing begins by returning your attention to the present moment instead of becoming trapped in cycles of rumination. Survivors frequently replay old conversations, searching for hidden meanings or wondering what they could have done differently. While reflection can be healthy, endless self-analysis often prolongs emotional pain. Practicing mindfulness helps interrupt these mental loops and gently redirects your focus toward what is happening right now rather than what can no longer be changed. One of the most empowering realizations comes when you understand that confidence is not something another person gives you. It is something that naturally grows when you repeatedly honor your own values, trust your perceptions, and respect your emotional boundaries. The confidence you feel today may look different from the confidence you had before the relationship. In many ways, it becomes stronger because it is no longer built upon external validation. It is built upon self-awareness, resilience, and the quiet certainty that your experiences matter. Eventually, you begin noticing subtle changes. You apologize less for existing. You stop over-explaining yourself. Decisions become easier. Your inner critic becomes quieter. You no longer feel responsible for managing everyone else's emotions. Instead of asking whether you're enough, you begin asking whether the relationships in your life are healthy enough for you. That shift represents one of the most meaningful milestones in emotional recovery. If this message spoke to you today, take a moment to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who may need encouragement on their own healing journey. We'd also love to hear from you in the comments. What has helped you begin rebuilding your confidence after an emotionally difficult relationship? Your story could become the hope someone else has been searching for. As you continue moving forward, remember this: healing is rarely loud. Most of the time, it happens quietly, in the moments when you choose to trust yourself again, protect your peace, and believe that your voice deserves to be heard. Every healthy boundary you establish, every act of self-respect you practice, and every step you take toward emotional freedom is evidence that your confidence is returning. Clarity is the first form of freedom. Your past does not define your future. The confusion you experience does not determine your worth. No matter how long you've questioned yourself, you can learn to trust your own mind again. You are stronger than you know. You deserve relationships built on respect, honesty, and emotional safety. And above all, you are not alone.